Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's late. Testing that. Yeah, that's working. It's late. I decided to jump on anyway. It's been a week. No chat this week. We're hoping to come back next weekend for our Sunday chat, me and Rasa. It's as I've said before, summertime is a little more difficult. My brother's in town visiting, so it's a little tougher to kind of line up schedules and have it work for both of us at the same time. What can I say? I was just watching my Due Dissidents podcast here on the YouTubes, and obviously the biggest talk going around is the glorious debate that you guys had down south there. After I stopped laughing, because how the hell else do you respond to something like that? So what have we talked about in the past? We've talked a lot about, and I talk about a lot in my personal life with people, is that you're not voting for the individual, you're voting for the party. That remains to be true. What gets me about this is when the parties don't care enough about those votes that they'll parade any half-wit, jack-off, scumbag, douchebag. It feels like there's such a contempt for people on the whole to go through that. Again, I know that. I know you know that when you're voting for somebody, you're voting for the party. They're just the figurehead. I know that we all know that. But there's a lot of people who I don't think realize that, and they are voting for the individual. So regardless of what party you're aligned with, and if you are heavily aligned with one party, I'd seriously question that. You shouldn't be. Shouldn't shut yourself off to other things other people are saying just because they're in the opposite party or whatever. It just really reads as like just contempt for the voting public and for the American citizens. And as a Canadian, the other thing that concerns me personally, currently, we'll see for how long. Currently, America is still the world power, I guess, or the big dog on the block. To have that level of contempt and have that level of confusion and that level of douchebaggery and that level of politics paraded in front of you should make you really question what the hell is going on behind the scenes. And it kind of scares me a little bit. It's not like I'm losing sleep over it, but it does feel like this is an especially steep decline in things, considering what's going on in the world at any given moment, but specifically with what's going on now. This kind of shit worries me in a different kind of way. It concerns me in a different kind of way. And I always go back to the same thing. What can we do to fix it? Again, for me, a big part of it is becoming involved and trying to make changes where you can, and trying to affect your area, your bubble, so it has those ripple effects, right? So you have one area, whatever that happens to be, your job, your neighborhood, your city, maybe, in my case, like our union, where you can actually make those changes and hope those ripple effects kind of embolden, pardon me, bring everybody else up to a point where they do feel ready to tackle bigger issues. They have now had an opportunity to tackle something locally or whatever, hit some milestones, so then they'll be brave enough to kind of go the next step. And we need to really be looking at how to do that in our own ways and in our own bubbles, because this shit is everybody's life on this planet. These fucking jokers who don't give a single fucking shit about you or me or anybody, they are the ones that are going to absolutely crush us. They have that power. And I say they because, again, it's not just the one individual. It's an entire party. It's staff, it's aides, it's all sorts of people that end up running things for that figurehead. Obviously, dependent on the president or the prime minister or whoever you're talking, there's going to be different levels of engagement. I'm sure that's a thing. But at the end of the day, the director does not make the movie by himself. There's an entire crew behind that. There's all sorts of things that have to happen for that director to take credit for what he's doing. And that's any director. I don't care who you are. There's always a studio and there's always people behind you, right? But when it's at this level, when it sunk so far, and to be blunt, you guys look like a fucking joke down there. It's insane that it's getting to this level. It's insane. So I just really encourage everybody to do something, however you can affect things. Do something, because we desperately need this to change. We desperately need this shit to move forward somehow. I personally feel like that's tearing the whole fucking thing down and starting again, but that's just my opinion. Some dude in his basement trying desperately to push forward in this nonsense. It's ridiculous. It's really, obviously I didn't watch it. I have no interest in watching those game shows anyway, because again, I don't feel they mean much. The other thing that we can start doing is demanding more from politicians and the parties. And again, I'm thinking locally. I know presidentially or federally here in Canada, voting for the prime minister, there's a little bit less effect that you can actually have on pushing which way a candidate and their party kind of speak to the public. But you can do that locally if you attend. We attended some things here in the city, in our neighborhood, that were kind of town halls. Attend those things, like make it known what it is that you're interested in. I was looking at this one Canadian politician because I was looking for this insane quote that he had late March. Yeah, well, let's just share it. I feel like now all of a sudden I've made a thing about it, so let's just share it. How do I do that? Is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to find the image. It's right here. And let's see what happens here when I share. Oh, no, we do this. Sorry, everybody. Share screen. This is the one window. There it is. Here we go. So this is one of our politicians for, what is it? People's Party of Canada is what they're called. I believe Maxime Bernier was he was part of the Conservative Party, went off to do his own thing. This is something that he said May 28th. There are 22 Arab countries. Why won't any of them take them in? Why don't Palestinians stay in their corner of the world in societies with the same religion and a similar culture? Why is Canada obliged to welcome all the wretched of the earth? This is the fucking piece of shit who has the nerve to talk like this and think that anybody's going to take him seriously. The rest of his Twitter is filled with woke this and woke that and gender identity this and gender identity that and immigrants this and immigrants that. So we need to be asking more of these people to stop playing these fucking games. Stop treating it like everything, that the goal of every engagement is to appeal to the lowest common denominator. We don't put up with it when it comes to our stupid fucking comic books or our stupid fucking Disney superhero shows. Why the fuck would we put up with it when it's something that's actually serious, that actually affects us on a very real fucking level? I just don't get it. I'm sick and tired of hearing this from politicians. It's hard enough that you have a smattering of douchebags in your personal life that always want to go down some of those roads. Now we got to have that horse shit played to by the politicians. I don't think we should accept it anymore. I obviously don't think we ever should have. And again, I believe that can start locally. And I know that I'm feeling kind of like a bit of a different fire with um, yeah, I mean, it's got to happen. We need to be pushing for better, because look at what the fuck choice you have down there. Like, look at your fucking choice. And again, as my personal opinion, I think all the parties are pretty much the same, because it's all part of a system that is broken and is not working. And we need to acknowledge that. And we need to put in some kind of work to encourage the future generations to continue that work, which is why, total full circle, slowly getting us into comics. I loved some of the scenes in Andor, the Star Wars Andor show. One of the main characters had a speech that went something. The gist of it was he knew his place within the rebellion in the Star Wars universe, and he knew that he wasn't going to see the end of it, but he knew that he had to keep pushing forward in that position for that future to take place. And I think that that's a big part of it. There's this need and this desire to want everything right away. And I think the kind of changes that we need to start pushing for are long-term ones that we're not going to see, and we need to be okay with that, and we need to still push forward. So I'd encourage everybody to think about this and do with it what you will. Ignore me, whatever you want to do. That's my 2 cents. I can't not talk about these things, because it's just too it's just too fucking bonkers out there, man. Anyway, a douchebag and a fucking old man, like, Jesus Christ, man. So let's get into this one. So there's a couple of these that I'm not going to talk about, because I'm going to wait till our chat. Hello, look at this guy. For the love of comics, welcome. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming and joining. I apologize for all my cursing. I know I curse a lot on this channel. I know that I kind of go down some roads that maybe not everybody appreciates, but I do appreciate you all coming and still coming back and listening to my nonsense. So I finally got Hate Revisited issue #1. I had to get my shop to order it in for me. I haven't seen any of the local shops that are carrying this, which is very different. Oh, you did? Hey, I'm sorry that I'm not aware fully of that. I should have a look at that. India had some very interesting elections recently. I will absolutely read about some of that tomorrow. So I had to do a special order of it. It's definitely not like the 90s where I could go to a shop and I could find some of these titles, even though there wasn't a ton of it on the shelves at all of the shops here in town. There was a couple of places that did carry this stuff. Hello, Dan Elson. Nice to see you, man. Always good to see you hang out here. So definitely not like the 90s, because I had to order this and get this in. Jared Osborne had talked about this book. I was pretty damn excited. I am pretty damn excited about a new Hate. I love this era. I love Peter Bagge. I love the Buddy Bradley character. I love a lot of his characters from like Neat Stuff and in the Hate universe, but Buddy Bradley always shared a special place for me. He just was, yeah, he was just an antagonistic kind of character who had these political beliefs, but they never quite aligned. And so I guess they never quite aligned with 100% with anybody that he interacted with. He always was a belligerent prick in a completely different way, depending on who was in the room. I appreciate that about him. I obviously identify with that a little bit, maybe more than a little bit. So I was really looking forward to this. I had some real good chuckles in here. I didn't feel like, again, I know nothing is going to be like it is in the past, but one of the things that I thought might be similar was Bagge's ability to kind of craft a story and weave all of those political ideas, mix it well with the humor, and kind of have it work as a thread throughout the story or stories, depending if it was over a couple of issues. Everything is sort of in a timeline as it is. I feel like there was just something missing from it. There was a lot of kind of throwaway lines that I felt, especially with a character like this, weren't 100% necessary. It almost acted as kind of like a reminder to the reader, like, hey, remember this guy? He used to say things like this. I don't feel like the readers of this specifically are going to need many of those reminders. I think for the most part, people picking this book up are going to be like me, either hardcore fans or fans of the character that are going to know where they're coming from. I'm so glad to. I'm still all of that said so far. I'm still so glad to have this in my hand. It's so great to have a new Hate comic to read, even with the kind of storytelling that didn't quite work for me. I'm obviously on board. It's only a 4-issue miniseries. I'm 100% on board with all of them. The other thing, and Jared Osborne mentioned this too, everybody gets old. Everybody gets old, man. And that clean, crisp line that Bag always had, and his impeccable lettering, because I really loved his lettering style as well. You can see the shake, and you can see the edges in a much different way. Didn't ever expect it to be exactly like it was. It's just another one of those noticing the passage of time kind of comments. When you see that, it reminds you of that place again. Like, this is a book from the 90s that I was heavy into, so reminds you of that time and all of those kind of things, right? So I think that's more what I mean by that comment. It is in no way, shape, or form any sort of like disparaging comment on his ability to create comics, because who am I to talk? I can't even do any of this stuff here. So I'm trepidatious, but I'm still looking forward to reading the rest of these. I love that cover, by the way. That cover also evoked a lot of ideas in my head when I first saw this solicited and stuff. So yeah, if you're a big fan of Hate, for sure you should pick it up. If you're just coming to Hate and you haven't read anything, start with the original stuff. Honestly, try to start with the neat stuff. If you can find neat stuff, start with that. Really, if you really want to immerse yourself in this world, I would say then you have to read Neat Stuff, that series, first before you get into the Hate, just to get an intro to his world, see his art develop from that early stuff, because it's amazing how his art did develop throughout those times. Yeah, this is something. Look at this. It's Daryl D. How's it going, Daryl? Nice to see you, man. As a fan of Hate from the start, did you ever think it would be one day collected in a deluxe slipcase 2 hardcover edition? Absolutely not. Like, and I'm sure every generation says this about whatever media they're into or whatever art form they're into. It does, even stuff that I make myself. There's this, I was buying it, I was loving it. I knew very few people other than myself that were into this sort of thing. Like, I really didn't know anybody who was into independent comics. I knew some people that were into comics, but when they saw black and white comics, to some of them, black and white comics weren't comics. Even conversation having at the shop, comics, real comics, were in color. None of this black and white bullshit. Weird, real comics were this, not your weirdo stuff. You know what I mean? So it was a really, really tiny little niche. So I definitely didn't think this would ever last ever. I thought it was going to be one of those things that I just really was into. I shared with a few friends that I knew would appreciate it. They appreciated it on some level, but never could I imagine that there would be this longevity of these artists. I mean, Daniel Clowes, the same thing, you know, like all of that stuff that I was reading, again, picking 8-Ball up off the shelf as well too. Who would have thought that there would be movies made? That was the one time where it was like, okay, maybe some of this stuff does have legs, when that Ghost World thing came together. And, you know, there was conversations with Bag about Buddy Bradley, people optioning Buddy Bradley and the Hate comic to potentially make a cartoon, none of which really happened. I think there was a commercial that was done that had Buddy Bradley in it, but I guess that was kind of a window into, well, maybe there is something. And then there was all this independent stuff that was gaining steam anyway. but I don't think I ever thought that there would be these beautiful collections of all those books, and there would be hopefully a new generation that's appreciating some of that stuff from the 90s. Yeah, so Dan says, yeah, I had to have my shop special order a copy for me too. Stoked to see Bag return to this. It's at least got to be better than some of the 90s bands that keep trying new stuff that may not work. And, you know, I feel like all of that stuff sort of ties in, right? Like it does feel like I promise this is our last tour. This is going to be our final tour as they get older and older. And I totally understand that. I'm throwing no shade on people who are trying to relive a moment of their life or just cash in. I am completely fine with both of those, but it does also kind of read in a little bit of like a sad way sometimes, right? When you can see that they're really trying to capture something that's just not, you just can't. I almost feel like it's try to do something new or completely different and maybe throw in a song or two from your old set, or have something that kind of pays homage to that past but is something a little new. I mean, you know, Miyazaki is a good example. That last movie, The Boy and the Crane, is that the title of it? I think I always confuse the name. Beautiful film if you haven't seen it. And that's another way of this creator coming to terms with being at the later stages of life and looking back on this career, right? I think that movie is done beautifully doing some of these things, or having that mindset anyway, like looking in the rear view mirror kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. Look at this. We were talking about the same thing. On the other hand, Miyazaki has stopped declaring he's retired and now switched to "we'll never retire, we'll work till dead." I didn't hear that, but that makes sense. I mean, I don't think a guy like that could ever fully retire, but I do still appreciate that last film that he did for those reasons that I already said there. So that's Hate Revisited. Maybe I'll say a quick word about this because I don't really know what to say about it yet. I've had these for a little while and they're up off my shelves. Look at this. Wowzers. It's too early morning. No. Boy and the Heron. Thank you very much. Yes, Boy and the Heron. So this is one that I've had on my rack for quite a while to sit and read. It's Tandra, the Dragon Rock Saga from Hanthercraft Publications. This is mid-90s. Let me just check. I think it was 1994. So I had heard about these. I'd seen some ads for them. Colin and I did a stream where we were looking through an old previews. I think it was in that previews. There was like a full page ad for this. And Colin had said that this is a series that had always interested him to see in person. Not one that I've ever seen before. There was multiple volumes of it. Yeah, it's still way too early for me to tell what I'm going to think about this, but it's barbarian-ish type of tales in this volume, because again, there are other volumes, and I don't know if all of the volumes focus on these exact same characters. Tandra is the name of the universe or the world that they're from, so it's not an individual. I think it's a universe. That's the thing. I'm still a little unsure about some of the details after just the one issue. I may or may not have partaken with some marijuana when I read this last night or the other night. See, I don't even remember what night it was. There's a lot of it's almost like a illustrated novel because there's just lots of text with some images. The images are really nice. There's nothing wrong with them. They're sort of at that kind of mid-level. There's a couple of times where you can really see the slip, and you can really see kind of a mix of styles that almost has like a Kelly Jones, Bernie Wrightson kind of look to that chin and that profile there. So there's a mixture of stuff in here. And then there's stuff like this that I think is really nice and moody. I like the way that lighting is playing out on them there. So I'm curious about this. I just don't know enough about this universe yet to give it a full to give it its full due. And I also know then every once in a while there's stuff like this that is just so cartoony. Like that pose is very odd, and it really stands out as it stands apart from the rest of the book when you see something like that. So yeah, it is interesting for sure. And let's get the Hanther. What's his full name here? It just credits him as Hanther, written and illustrated by Hanther. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else. So Hanther Craft is the artist writer named Hanther. So I'm going to keep on with this. Hopefully I can read the other 3 that I have before next weekend, so I have a bit of a better picture of what those are and if you should look for them. I'll put those over there. What else do I got? This is one that I may wait to talk with Rasa about. Not that she's reading it, but I feel like I've talked with her a lot about it on Sundays. Needless to say, I love this book. I love these creators. Their previous series became a favorite read of the year. I've already put stars beside it in my notebook as a potential best of year because I thoroughly enjoyed reading every single issue of this one. And I thought that this ending was really nice. I thought it wrapped everything up really nicely. So a 6-issue series for those of you keeping score from Boom Studios, Rare Flavors. So if you're interested in this, or if you liked the Layla Starr book, you should read this. I feel like it's as good as Layla Starr. I enjoyed it as much as I did Layla Starr. So really, really solid book. I hope they spend a lot more time together and do a lot more work. Yeah, that's what I hope. I also read Sacrificers, and I'm not going to say anything about it because again, I'm going to wait until Rasa gets her copy and reads it. I believe we talked Sickness last Sunday. That shouldn't be on that pile. For those of you who don't know, maybe haven't seen the previous streams when I've talked about this, Sickness is on a break, and then they're going to start the second volume. Uncivilized Books is offering a subscription service to that second volume. There's a lot of different tiers, basically, that you can subscribe to get extra stuff, extra covers. I think there's a tier where maybe you can get a sketch from Jenna Cha. The other thing that Uncivilized has pre-orders open for is a trade collection of this first volume. And again, I'm not sure how many, if there's any left, but there was the first 150 got like get a book plate with I made it under that like really early. I pre-ordered it right away. So if you want to check out Uncivilized Books for all of your Sickness news for the next volume and the collected edition, go and check them out and support them. I'm glad that some of their books are doing well. Ginseng Roots is another thing that Uncivilized Books puts out. I'm glad that they're doing so well with their stuff. It's great to see. Ramvi hasn't hit for me as yet. Star and Shores were fine, but didn't do it for me for some reason. Yeah. And I think that's, as we always talk about here, that's the way that it is. Some things are going to work for people and just some won't. Personally, I just loved every minute of the book. I love the artwork. Yeah, and Ramvi hasn't hit for me. Like when I read that Swamp Thing, or when I was reading that Swamp Thing that he was doing, it started off, I was excited about it. There seemed like there was going to be some interesting ideas. I felt like a long form series like that, or longer rather, I felt like it just became a little too messy, because when you're in those worlds, there's all these other layers that are coming at play that you didn't have a part of in creating. It just exists. I didn't get as much out of those stories. I felt like he was kind of struggling a little bit to kind of fit inside that. I know that I've read a couple of other things from him, but I'm struggling to remember what any of them are. These two are the ones so far that have hit the hardest. Let's see. Did we talk Dawn Runner? Yes, we did. Yeah, I've got a lot of books here. So that's Dawn Runner number 3. Another one that I'm waiting to talk to Rasa about, Helen of Windhorn. This is issue number 2. If you're not reading this, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am one of those people that doesn't have a strong opinion about Tom King either side of the argument. Um, I'm un I don't know what I feel about him. I do know that he's written a couple things that I've really enjoyed, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. The writing is good, no doubt about it, but this art in here is just mind-bogglingly good. I absolutely love it. So I'm really enjoying this so far. And again, this is only 2 issues. Sorry, 3 issues in. This is the 3rd issue. It's only 3 issues in. So there you go. That one. I talked that, and this, yeah, look at this. A lot of books in the wrong spot. The other thing I kept up with, I finally got my hands on, this is Grendel Volume 2, right? I finally got my hands on an issue number 3. I've got a bunch of, I think I've got the first 30 issues now in a row. So I wanted to kind of fill in the gaps before I kind of read the entire thing. Pardon me. So I've now read the first 5 issues. That issue 3 has been sitting around for quite a while. Another one where it just feels a little too early to kind of give a full idea of what I think about it. I feel like there's something with this character that really pays off with the long form storytelling, and the more you get to know about the Grendel character. In this case, is it Hunter Rose? I'm not sure. I'm saying that with huge hesitation because I don't want to get blasted by the 2 people that are watching this stream. I love the Pander brothers, though. That I can say. Their style is so 80s. And what year is this one? This is 1987 is when this book was coming out. Their style screams that 80s. They really go all in with the 80s fashion. I love kind of the way they use these panels and breaking the panels. Everything is, there's a lot of like very angular looking and sharp looking edges on things. Nice looking stuff here as well too. So I'm digging their style. It's not a style that would have appealed to me in the 90s even. I don't think I would have gone for any of this at all, but over time this has really spoken to me in a different way. The story itself is fine so far. I can't say I'm following everything. I find myself kind of reading it and starting to kind of zone out a little bit and have to kind of try to catch up to see where I was. I feel like there's a lot of dead space in here with these conversations that aren't really getting much of anywhere. It's not super interesting character building in some instances, but I'm enjoying it enough to like look at this this side here. Look at this shot. Look at those 2. That's kind of amazing, man. Really wild stuff. They look almost identical to each other. I'm absolutely going to keep on with this though, because I have heard great things about Grendel in general, and I have heard some good things about this 2nd volume. So I'm looking forward to keeping up with that, at least for those, whatever it is, 30-ish issues that I have. Let's put this over here somewhere. Running out of room. I also, when I went to 204 Comics to pick up my pull list, he had a sale going on, and I found 2 older issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 1st volume there, number 13 and number 16. They're a little waterlogged, which is why they were a little cheaper and then on sale as well. So I read this issue number 13, and I've read this in the collected edition already. This is a spaceship crashing on Earth, and a fight happening between these 2 women, and it's part of their political system, actually. It's part of their electoral system, rather, is the word that I'm looking for, where not only when you run against the current president, you then have to fight them as well to actually get the ability to run for that position, right? So that's what this book kind of is. It jumps in on that. Oh, look at this. It's La Raza. Hello. 1:28 a.m. I guess not for you, though. Welcome. Nice to see you. But it's super fun. I'm really excited to get a couple of more issues filled in my early Ninja Turtles volume. It's great to see this. Like, the collections that I have are colored. I much prefer seeing the black and white. There's nothing wrong with the color in those books whatsoever. I just prefer it in black and white. Getting my son ready for school. Oh, geez. He's still going to school. Yeah, we're on summer break now. Lillian is on summer break. So we are, because then tomorrow's Canada Day, so there's nothing going on like work-wise anyway for people, or I guess today now is. But there you go. So that's that. I'm gonna rewind. Blue and Green and Graffiti's Wall. Yeah, so those are other Ram V ones. I haven't read those ones, so I should check out those titles. Yeah, I only picked up Helen because of your recommendation, but I dig it so far. Cool. I'm glad to hear that, Dan. I haven't read Blue and Green as yet, but it's on the list as his ideas I love, but the execution hasn't captivated me yet. He works with some exceptional artists, though, for sure. I agree. A superpower that Ram is picking up the best collaborators for the stories. Yeah, I mean, he's like a Remender in that. LaRosa and I have talked about that many times, that Remender has this ability to, he's got the talent where he can kind of bring these amazing artists to him. And then just hellos. Yeah, the drawing videos. Encourage everybody to go to LaRosa's page and check out those videos. Follow her on Instagram as well too. And of course, come and join us on Sundays and talk a lot of nonsense in the comments and try to I don't know, inject some ribbing into the show. So the last thing for tonight, which I will talk about, but because it's new, I'm not going to talk about in too much detail because I feel like it's still in the spoiler, even though a lot of what I have to say about this book really depends on the ending. I'm going to refrain from touching on that at all. So don't worry about that. No spoilers, no nothing. My favorite thing is Monsters, book number 2. First of all, when the hell did the first book come out? Has it been 5 years? Has it been more than that? I know it's been since I've been on YouTube. So it's probably somewhere around 5-ish years. So there was some sort of delay. I imagine part of that delay was just the creative process. Because if you've read Emil Ferris's My Favorite Thing is Monsters book 1, and you can just see by the cover here, you know how much detail she puts into some of the pages in here. There's a lot of different styles going on, and that works incredibly well. I was saying to Rasa when I first started reading it, I was a little hesitant. I was a little kind of unsure at the beginning because I didn't kind of jump into it immediately like I thought I would, because I've been pretty damn excited for this book because I really, really enjoyed book 1. I thought it was such a wonderful read. Pardon me. I thought it was such a wonderful read. I was really looking forward to book number 2. Once I kind of got over that mental hump and reminded myself that you're reading this child's journal, it's presented as a journal. It's literally on like loose leaf paper. So you're not reading a narrator telling a story. You're reading a first person account of the world that they're engaging with and things that they're doing day to day. Once I kind of solidified that idea and reminded myself of that idea, I sunk into it immediately. And it's a wonderful book. I can say that I really enjoyed this entire read. I really love the way the story unfolds. And that's what I really appreciated about the first one. I love how the story unfolded. I loved how we got nuggets of information about characters and about her world. And again, I think that works really well with it being a journal. She's sharing these moments, and some of those moments won't have an end because she hasn't experienced that end yet. So there's no even insight that she can give or to kind of like have a more traditional storytelling method where you can have this beginning and an end and have everything kind of tie together, because she hasn't gotten to that part in her life yet where she's found out those answers. And then, of course, as we all know, some things that you find in life, there's just no goddamn answers for. And that goes with people and situations. And what happened to that old guy that lived down the street when I was a kid, whose house was the haunted house on the block, or whatever it happens to be, right? So such a good book, though. It's nice to see a lot of the old characters come back, though, to make an appearance. It's also great to be introduced to a couple of new characters. That's always fantastic. Like, look at this page. Look at that werewolf transformation scene. She's an amazing artist. I would love to know what the full story is. I know that, well, I don't know anything. Let me start by saying that. I don't know shit. What I've heard, though, is there was potentially some issue between her and Fantagraphics. I don't know what that was in relation to. I think one of the things I remember hearing was maybe about the idea of a second book, and them having to kind of remind her that you do have a contract with us for 2 books. So I think that's how that played out. What her contract deal is with them at this point, going forward, I've got no idea. I know that this series is her first comic book work. And again, by the looks of it, the amount of time that this must take, even for just a page, is it's understandable why it took an extra time to kind of come out. And one of the benefits of working in independent comics is you do have a lot looser of a timeline. Like, within reason, this sounds like it was maybe pushing those boundaries of even maybe their contract potentially. But you do have that ability to not rush because you have to get something out next month, especially with a big tome like this. So I'm not going to show any further. You've seen kind of samples from the first, I don't know, 20 pages, 25 pages. So I'm not even going to go further than that to flip through, because part of this book, and like most books, but I would say especially a book like this, is that discovery, is that kind of things that she's starting to experience in her life. That unfolding nature of this book is really part of the thrill of it. But yeah, I love it. It's going to look beautiful up on the shelf if I can cram it in there by the other one. Let's see what I missed. Hello, Damien. Welcome. Damn, glad you said no spoilers. It's been a decade. Oh, wow. It's been, yeah, okay. Maybe not, but it feels like a decade. Okay, understood. Yeah, beautiful cover for this one, and beautiful cover for the first one as well. And just so many pages where there's times I'm just sitting there looking at this. Let me see if this will kind of, let's see, maybe let's amp this up a jump here or 2. Hopefully you can see that a little clearer there. You just sit, the amount of times I would sit and just stare at the page and look at all the textures and look at all the lighting and look at all the shading and just look at the cross hatching. The other thing about her cross hatching and her texturing is that when she's using kind of traditional cross hatching methods, it's some of the straightest lines you've ever seen. So it gives the impression that she's not just doing this really fast. It feels like she's drawing each one of those lines at about this speed and then going back the other way and drawing it, like the amount of time just to do one face in one panel. And again, I think that's also why this format works for her as a journal, because there's an inherent accepting nature of there's going to be different styles. This girl clearly has talent, the little girl in the story, but sometimes she's just telling a story and putting it down on the page. Just as this is how she journals, as opposed to just doing a straight ahead diary. I have so many thoughts on this book. Read my Goodreads review and you'll see my issues. Kate, I will absolutely do that. Cool Pages seems even more intense visually. Yeah, it had that feeling to it for sure, that there was some pages that were even more intense before. I still haven't gotten it because I'm nervous about reading it. Don't be nervous, just read it. If you enjoyed the first one, this one won't completely disappoint. I don't personally think, but we'll read off my shelves, Goodreads, and see what his issues are. Wow, love those pages for sure. Should I read your review before reading the book? I think I avoid direct spoilers and keep it broad, so try. I'm afraid now, though, that I may spoil something. Yeah, and like I said, a lot of what I have to say that I'm not saying has to do with kind of that last chunk of the book. And when it's some time, maybe we'll try to, if I remember, I'll revisit it and we can talk about it at some later date. That's all that I read this week. I grabbed a couple of other things from the bins when I was at 204 Comics. Series called Ashes from Caliber Press. This is issue number 5. I was sure that I had at least another issue of this, maybe 2, but I can't seem to find it. It's not in my CLZ app, and I don't see it in my Caliber Press section. This is from 1990. It's by John Bergen, and just doing a flip through it, I'm digging the kind of mix of art and kind of the minimal, some of the minimal storytelling. Like this, to me, is pretty beautiful. I really, really like those pages. All of that space is fantastic, man. And again, it screams a Caliber book. Like there's you can't mistake this for anything else other than Caliber. Caliber Press really had a feel to the stuff they were putting out. So this is Ashes. I haven't read it. Like I said, I'm sure I have another issue, like issue number 2 or something laying around. I'm going to dig in some of the other boxes. Maybe I filed it somewhere else. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful. I never saw that actually the first flip through. I missed these pages. Didn't realize there was a total cop out. There you go. And there's another look at those pages too there. So what else did I find? I found an issue of Amazing Heroes, and I had to pick it up because it has Mr. X inside, and it actually has an interview with the Hernandez brothers in it, because as we all know, Mr. X started with the Hernandez Los Bros doing art, and then it changed hands to the one and only Seth, and then he did the rest of that first volume. Los Bros, I think they only lasted a few issues of Mr. X. I don't remember how many issues before Seth took over. And if you don't know that first volume of Mr. X, I would strongly encourage checking it out, because honestly, you see Seth develop as an artist so goddamn quickly. You can see him kind of working out where his place is in this universe, into comics, period. Following up the Hernandez brothers, you can see some nods to them as he's kind of finding his own style. And then once he finds his own style, which is pretty damn quick, it sort of soars from there. It's so cool. Again, it's one of the things that I love the most about digging back into these back issues and finding these old books, is seeing an artist develop. So we even get some sketches and turnarounds, I guess, of some of the characters here. And of course, we get some panels. So I haven't another one I haven't read yet. I'm curious to read it. So Amazing Heroes is a Fantagraphics book. This is from June 1984 is when this issue is. They had a few more issues of Amazing Heroes, but this is the only one that I picked up. I think he had them priced at like $2 a pop or something like that. So very, very reasonable. I picked up the next issue of Grommets. Haven't read it yet. This is on the top of the stack for this week, though. I loved the first issue. I'm sure this is going to be great. And if you haven't seen Remender and Fiumara from Sacrificers, they had an interview on, shoot, man, I don't remember what the hell that channel is called. I am completely blanking on the name. There was a live stream this afternoon where he interviewed them. I was able to catch like maybe 15-20 minutes. The one and only Gore Vidal had sent an email reminder about it, so I was able to hop on just for a little bit. I do have it bookmarked so I can watch the whole thing. Torpedo 1972, issue number 4. I did pull this off my pull list, but I think I still kind of owed them this one issue, so I think now I can officially drop this. I haven't read book 2 or 3. Book 1 really just turned me off. I don't really want this book, but I feel obligated because my shop got an extra copy because I put it on my subscription list. I do feel I need to honor that. Local artist who we've talked about before. This is Silent T. You can follow Silent T on Instagram. I love Silent T's style. Silent T has a few comics out. I only have the one before this, which came out sometime last year. Silent T is honestly freaking amazing, and it's part of the style, and the beauty is the coloring that he or she does. I don't know who this individual is. Even on Instagram they refer to themselves as Silent T. I don't think there's even a quote-unquote real name attached yet. Even the email address is contact@silenttcomics.com. So brand spanking new, heavy duty cover, putting a lot of companies to shame, but I am really looking forward to this one. The one previous was a pretty damn fun read, and just a wild style. There's almost like Sienkiewicz type moments in the page layouts, and when the style of art changes like on a dime from panel to panel, really kind of reminds me of that kind of Sienkiewicz universe of experimentation and not being so scared to kind of keep up a house style, or identify with just one particular style. It's wild looking shit, dude. It's just wild. Hopefully that's coming across on screen, because in person, knock your goddamn socks off. So there you go. That's the newest Silent T comics. So again, check out Silent T on Instagram. You can find more information and some samples on things. The last third is where all the issues are at, apart from the chaotic nature of the lettering, which was an issue I had with the first volume. Okay, just read it. I'd love to know your thoughts. Yeah, I'd be curious to know your thoughts as well, too. I was watching that live one for a bit, but not finished it. You now have a time limit. Get to it then. You have until tomorrow. Tomorrow, whose time, though? That's the question. Filling in a gap in my Eclipse collection, just an issue of Appleseed that I didn't have. Book 1, Volume 2, which actually means this is the first volume and this is issue 1. But for some reason, some of these companies decided to make it extra fucking difficult to understand what it is you're looking for on your CLZ app. So another gap filled in the Appleseed collection there, and the Eclipse collection. And a sort of Eclipse adjacent. It was Comics Interview that did this, but I think Eclipse was distributing and had their name in some of the early issues. Maybe it was just the Volume 1 stuff. I think this is Volume 2. Volume 1, I think, only had a couple of issues. So this ran for quite a long time, and he actually has a ton of these in the bins. I think I just needed issue number 4 to have the first 5 of Volume 2. I don't know if I want to go too much farther. This reprints newspaper comics. So in this particular issue, you get Outland, Shoe, Mother Goose and Grimm, Ernie, Bizarro by Peraro. Bizarro I loved when I was a kid. The Neighborhood, Bad Habits, and New Breed. Outland, wasn't that Berkeley Breathed as well too? Berkeley Breathed is a phenomenal artist. Shoe I remember, and Mother Goose and Grimm I really remember as well too. But there's a few. So this is some called Comics Express. This second volume is Comics Interview that puts this out. Kind of a neat little thing. And that's all that I got. I do have some gaming stuff, but I don't have it here, so we'll talk about it another time. There's a trilogy of games that I got on Board Game Geek and printed out, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. The first game in the trilogy is Tower of Silence, The End of Prophecy, and the basic premise is your souls washing up on the shore, washing up on the beach at the base of a mountain. You have to kind of crawl your way up the mountain. the first person to the top of the mountain kind of fulfills this prophecy. I believe all 3 games are tied in. It's by this company called Hopeless Games. It's really it's beautiful art that is completely cribbed from people like cover art by Francois Auguste Biard, and then there's the map art by someone named Peter Balk from 1864. So the cover is 1840. The map itself is 1864 copyright. There's soundtracks that they suggest with this stuff as well. So I'm really looking forward to this. Is kind of dark and bleak kind of gameplay here. Pseudo RPG-ish with a couple of counters to move around on a map. I'm really looking forward to trying those with some of the fam. I did not know Torpedo was being reprinted in floppies. Not being reprinted. This is a new Torpedo, and it is written by. Is this an as? No, it's not. I always confuse it. So it's half of the 100 Bullets crew, and the art is by Rizzo. And Sanchez Abuli is the writer on it. And the first issue, I kind of really disliked it. And at that point, I think I'd already had the first 2 issues, and the third one I picked up like the week after. Damien Sleepy Reader was saying that it does get a little better in the second, and I think even the third issue. So I am going to give it a chance because I now have them, so I may as well read them. But it is taking me quite a bit to build up the energy to dive back into it because I really didn't like that first issue. Yes, if anybody should be getting free comics, For the Love of Comics should be getting some free comics. You can also send some to me. I don't have a P.O. box, but get in touch. You can send me all sorts of stuff. Anyway, that's it. I have nothing else. Yeah, no, nothing else. That's it, because I haven't finished the Hellboy, all of that stuff. So thanks very much. I'm surprised that anybody showed up. I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. It's always good to see some people in the chat. I figured I'd just be talking to myself for a half an hour, but it's good that people were around. Never got issues 3 and 4. My shop must have dropped it, but issue 2 was an improvement. Okay, well, there you go. Good to know. So I will get to it eventually. I just don't really have the energy to engage with stuff that I don't like. You know, I feel like there's so much that I do want to read and engage with that I'm sure that I'll like that I just don't have the energy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, all right. Anyway, listen to Balkan. Try to have a good week. Fix your shit. Take care of your shit. Get some positivity out there. Try to affect your small circle. Let's try to start the ripples and get shit changed out there, because I'm personally sick and tired of the nonsense that's going on in the world. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a good week. Have a good day at work as well. How do I stop this damn thing? All right, later.